Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are going to be discussing chapters 2, 3, and 4 of Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, the second book in the Stormlight Archive. In these chapters, Kaladin and Bridgeford get used to their new duties, or at least start getting used to these things. Shallan is discovering more about what the hell is going on with her, since she hasn't even had as much opportunity as Kaladin at this point to get used to her powers and what the heck is happening. And then Dalinar has another vision, a new one for us at least. So we get a little bit of everybody this time and some interesting stuff going on. I'm Data, and with me today is...
I'm Joe. I'm sick. Sorry.
Jamie.
And Dak.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin. So yeah, 3 chapters, and we're spending a little time with all of our viewpoint characters for the part here. So what did you guys think of these 3 chapters?
So I really enjoyed these chapters. The Kaladin chapter, we got to catch up with everybody, which is kind of what I figured. Very understandable kind of mindset everybody's in at this point. They're still really unsure. So this seems like this chapter kind of tells us like we kind of picked right back up where we left off almost, it seems like, because Kaladin they're like still trying to figure out like the ropes of what they're going to be doing. And the only thing that I was kind of like, whoa, is when they all got head tattoos. I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, a little bit extreme, right?
Yeah, which like I understand the guys who had slave brands, that totally makes sense. But then when Rock's like, yeah, I'll do it too. I was like, oh man, Moash seemed to have the sensible idea and like just got it on his arm since he doesn't have a slave brand on his head. You know, that made sense. So that was it. Also interesting that the Stormlight keeps the tattoo from sticking onto his head, which I started to think, if she had completed the tattoo and it had healed and he hadn't used any Stormlight, would when using Stormlight, would it then like squeeze out of his skin? Like, how would that? I don't know. I was like, how would that work? It's just kind of a weird thought. But yeah, it was nice to catch up with those guys. And then we had Shallan, and so we're starting to figure out some things, thankfully, which was fun. We got to see that Jasnah has a spren that hangs out with her. Not Jasnah. Yeah, Jasnah. Sorry, my brain is not working. Flu brain right now. And then Shallan, I guess she's gonna have a spren that becomes her friend too, but it's kind of a blob right now. So also, if when fully realized, it's like a giant creature with a twisty face, that'd be pretty creepy to have hanging out with you.
Yeah, that would, right?
And so I'm interested to know how that's going to play out. But yeah, so I'm also interested to know, because Jasnah can use her special spren power to do the magic, but what's her other thing? And then also, what's Shallan's other thing? And then also, what's Kaladin's other thing? So like I we need more info.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Dalinar thing, we get a vision, talking to Navani, creepy writing on the wall. I don't know what to make of that. I mean, it seems weird to me that Seth would come in and be like, let me write this on the wall and then leave.
that doesn't seem like his style. Yeah.
No, it doesn't seem like his jive. Maybe it's the Ghost Bloods, but I don't know why. Anyway, it was weird. And so, and obviously we're just starting this book, so there's going to be a lot more questions to come. But I'm also hoping the book is more forthcoming with answers than in a faster pace than it was in the last book. That would be nice. I feel like we already have got some good answers to things,
yeah.
At least partially. So that's good. But yeah, I'm excited to keep reading.
I like you mentioning the thing with Moash, because when I got to that part this time, I was like, I wonder if Dak in particular will call that out as like, of course Moash wouldn't do what the team is doing, but from my perspective, I'm like, I would probably do the same thing that Moash did. Like, I don't need a
Yeah.
giant tattoo on my forehead.
Right. Especially if I don't have something I'm trying to hide.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe if I had, the brand on my forehead to hide, then it would make sense. But
Yeah. I mean, the brand to hide in this situation is good because what they're trying to do is like, if something happens in the future, they're trying to kind of save themselves from saying like, look, I was a slave. I'm not anymore. I was freed.
right.
Yeah, it makes total sense. But for the ones that didn't have the brand on their forehead, it made a lot less sense.
So yeah, I absolutely would be the guy who's like, I'll put it on my arm, so I'm showing solidarity, but yeah. But yeah, so we do see what Jasnah appears to have a spren, which shouldn't, I guess, come as a big surprise to us. And Shallan is gonna have a spren who she's like, why is mine dumb? I don't understand.
Dumb and creepy. Why is mine dumb and creepy?
So maybe we shall find that out as well.
I'm gonna start with Moash. That was exactly my thought too. I was like, oh, Dak's gonna have a field day with this one. In that chapter, yeah, it was nice to see everyone's perspective this time around, sort of just touch base with everyone and see where they're up to. Bridge 4 are going to have a hard time letting go of the fact that they were Bridge 4, which is sort of troubling a little bit. I like that they're sticking together and they're, proud of, I guess, where they've been and, now they're free and, they went through a lot and there's definitely, you don't want to undo their bind, but I'm a bit concerned at the whole, nope, we're not that. We're always going to be Bridge 4. It's like, okay, but you can know where you've been without tattooing it on your forehead. But yeah, I do like that they're standing together though. That's good. I'm interested to see what it's going to be like to pull the others in and start training them and see if they can turn things around for some of the other bridge crews as well. The uniforms as well, when they took off the Cobalt Guard patch off their uniforms, I was like, oh, like, yeah, okay, again, I get it, but don't bite the hand that feeds you. Like, this is probably too early to be doing this, guys, but we'll see how we go. Shallan's chapter, yeah, I was thinking back to when we first met Syl, and like Syl was the Windspren, and like Syl had a bit of a journey of almost like becoming more intelligent as the book went on, and because at first she was just kind of like a bit of a nuisance, and then it was a bit weird that she was hanging around. I'm hoping that this spren is sort of the same, but I feel like it's kind of cute. Like it's weird and creepy because it's been watching, and I don't understand how she drew it and it leapt off a page, and I've got so many questions and thoughts about what this thing is, but hopefully we'll get that journey in this book of this spren becoming smarter and being able to interact. Because could you imagine you've got this companion for life and mine is like this crazy patterned blob that just jumps around like a deranged toddler. It's not actually helpful at all. I'd be kind of feeling like I'm ripped off a bit, especially when they're supposed to be these cryptic things. So that's interesting. But it was cool to very briefly see Jasnah's spren. And of course that makes sense that there is a spren attached to her as well. But yeah, I thought that was a cool read. And down on last chapter, I was like, yeah, another vision. Pure Lake, we've sort of seen that before. What is this monster coming out of the water? That's insane. But yeah, Navani being there, that was like understandable. She's writing everything down. And the message on the wall is obviously a bit creepy, but we have a nice little time frame of whatever's going to go down. So 62 days, yay. Or not yay, but yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a yay sort of situation. But yeah. So do you think 62 days are we going to end up? Is that like within this book? Is that a different book or?
Without having any idea whatsoever, I'm going to say in this book.
Fair enough. But yeah, you got it. I don't know that I expected that Bridge 4 would start separating or anything. They've clung to each other to survive this long. But I agree that it's nice to see them. They're having this group identity that they're using for themselves, and it will be, like you said, it'll be interesting to see the new bridgemen that they're training. Do they incorporate them into this group they already have, or do they start developing their own sort of identities?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll always have Bridge 4 And I don't think like anyone can take that away, but I hope they continue to then evolve. Like you're always going to have that core group that has that shared experience, but I hope they're open to new shared experiences. And obviously a lot of that is dependent on trust, and they have very little trust in anyone outside Bridge 4, which is also, again, understandable knowing where they've been from. But I hope that they're able to open up to that. I mean, particularly Dalinar. We know Dalinar's a solid guy. They don't know that yet. And Kaladin's kind of going along with it because it works for them rather than he's feeling any sense of honor towards Dalinar. There's something there, but it's not his driving motivation to help Dalinar. So but I hope that they are able to continue to grow. Like, yes, don't forget where you've been and where you've come from and who your crew are, but don't be that forever.
Yeah, you want to be able to grow. That's a good point, too.
But it'll take time, and perhaps it'll take longer than 62 days.
Fair point. Yeah, you don't grow instantly out of this stuff. So
No.
Yeah, that's fair.
It could be like the time frame in Elantris. We're told for the entire book 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, and then after like 2 months, the bad guys are like, "Fuck it, we're going early."
Yep. They tricked us.
Yeah. Man, I'm getting called out a lot already about the Moash thing. Like, it wasn't going to be my sole focus, but since people are apparently expecting it, I will bring it up.
You made your bed, Dak.
Yeah, but that means I get to lie in it. You don't have to then untuck the blanket and tell me to get in.
It's just like if Spook showed up and said, "I know why you're sad," we'd all be like, "Oh, here we go. Joe's
I know.
gonna have something to say."
Maybe it's just because it's so early in the episode. But yeah, no, all right, I'll say it. It was just like, okay, he doesn't seem like he's willing to be part of the group. And I kind of already had that thought when it's like he's here to kill someone and we still don't know who that is, but it seems significant. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, like there's something in Moash's future, I'm sure. On the whole, like my favorite part of these chapters were actually Navani's epigraphs here. And I guess like that's entirely the point. They are setting up this horrific shit's going to go down. The Parshendis are making their move. Our enemies are coming for us. And I'm just like, okay, you just drop that and then we're in the whole, okay, we're getting tattoos and new uniforms. And what the hell's this picture on the wall? Like, come on. As I said, I'm sure it's intentional. But yeah, that's definitely ratcheting up the tension, which then the chapters are deflating a bit because they're much more patient and calm. But yeah, no, like I think I loved Dalinar's vision. Like Jamie said, the monster in the water was fascinating. It's like I need to know more about what's going on there. Cool to see like Jasnah and Shallan's spren buddies, especially considering like Jasnah's appears to be the one from the prologue that gave her a test of character or whatever it was in the cognitive realm. Little inky boy. Yeah, no, it's like just obviously we've only just started the book, so a lot of setup coming, and it's completely at odds with the epigraphs. So I'm just like, all right. We need to reach a bit more of a middle ground between you two.
Yeah, the epigraphs are very much like shit has gone down, and the book is like, no, everything's cool right now. We totally don't expect any shit to go down anytime soon, except for then it's like, well, maybe in 63 days.
Got the phone call. It said in 7 days. What? What's a phone?
That's what it is. See, Dalinar, he was going to get the phone call, and then somebody realized there's no phone, so they had to go elsewhere. Seth
is climbing out of a well, just like, oh, man.
That would be unfortunate if you gotta be in the well, my man. That's not fun for anybody. Nobody wants to be in the well.
Yeah. Although I guess he can just walk up the wall, so no real problem.
Oh, that's true. I hadn't actually thought about that. That's how they climb out of the well. It all makes sense now. Everything fits together so perfectly.
We're through the looking glass here, people.
So yeah, I guess let's move into these chapters. We started with Bridge 4, which, as everyone predicted last time, about Kaladin in Bridge 4. Shocker. But as Dak said, we get some interesting things from Navani Colin's journal as we continue to get epigraphs from that particular source for part 1. Our first clue was the Parshendi. Even weeks before they abandoned their pursuit of the gem hearts, their pattern of fighting changed. They lingered on plateaus after battles, as if waiting for something. So, at some point, the Parshendi are going to stop pursuing gem hearts and change their pattern of fighting. And that was going to be the first clue to whatever happens. I guess let's keep an eye out for that if we see that happen. Let's see. Kaladin is hanging out thinking about death, and Dark Eye's bodies get burned. Rich Light Eyes often get turned into statues. We kind of knew that from before.
We knew. I'd forgotten.
The high storm has passed, and so people are outside washing, getting shaves, all that good stuff. And Kaladin calls over Moash, Scar, and Teft, who are going to be kind of some of his commanders, as we find out here. And so they've got almost 1,000 men, or more, depending on which section it is, it's either almost 1,000 or slightly more than 1,000. It's around 1,000 dudes that they're in the former bridgemen that they're now commanding, and they're going to need to find a way to train and supply and all that stuff. So they're filling out these barracks because there's a lot of empty barracks in Dalinar's camp these days after 6,000 people got killed or whatever. And Kaladin notes that there's some of the women, the female scribes working on moving stuff around, are red-eyed, and there's a lot of new widows in camp, and probably a lot of orphans as well. Thaddeus's betrayal had a lot of ramifications. And Kaladin's thinking about it is like, there's no greater sin than betraying one's allies. Well, except maybe when you kill your own men, cough, Amaram, cough. And so Kaladin not a fan of either of these dudes, Thaddeus or Amaram, shockingly.
Yeah, I mean, he's got kind of personal reasons for it.
Yep.
He's not exactly objective.
Yeah, well, anyone who knows what Thaddeus did to Dalinar, probably not a big fan. Although the other High Princes don't care that much, I think, is what we've decided.
Yeah.
And so Kaladin's like, we need to figure out, let's get a look at these men. Let's start working on how we're going to train these 1,000 guys. And Moash, of course, is the naysayer. Like, there's no way that we can train these guys. Transforming a few dozen men is different from doing the same for hundreds of them. And Kaladin's like, okay, we'll make 20 crews of about 50 people each. And then we'll get like the more eager ones. We'll train them, and they'll go back and start training their crews. And Moash is like, you assume some of them will be more eager. They all look the same level of despondent to me. And Kaladin's like, well, some of them joined us at the fire last night, so that's a place to start. But Teft, you're going to be in charge of training, essentially. We'll get 2 from each crew. You train those 40 guys, and those 40 guys will go back and train the other. And I'll give you a few guys to help you out. And Teft's like, well, wait, just a few. I kind of need, you're going to have to make do. Most of us are going to be keeping Dalinar Kholin alive. And Moash, suddenly not really a fan of Dalinar either, where he's like, are we really going to trust this dude? And Cal's like, I mean, he gave us a Shardblade for us, and Scar and Moash are both like, whatever.
Like, do they not know what that meant? I guess, like, are you stupid?
Like,
yeah,
Moash says, it's just a political game. Really?
Yeah.
I'm siding with Dak a little bit today. Moash is getting annoying. And then Kaladin's like, well, we need to keep him alive. He's the only one who, like, gives a shit about us, and if he dies, how long do you think it's going to take before his successor sells us back to Sadeas? Which I guess would be Adolin. I can't imagine Adolin selling the Bridgemen to Sadeas, but I also don't think he would trust them the way that Dalinar seems to so far.
No, and we've already established Adolin doesn't really seem to like Kaladin that much. This one guy talked mean to him that one time, so he's like, Maybe
he'll get over it now that Kaladin's basically like in charge of his dad's bodyguards.
Yeah, somehow I doubt that.
And Scar's like, well, I mean, I'd like to see them try. We have a Knight Radiant, or whatever you are. Like, they'll never take us from you. And Kaladin's like, well, you think I could fight all tens of thousands of troops and dozens of shard bearers? One man can't do that. And Scar's like, not one man, you. And Kaladin's like, okay,
oh my God,
that's insanity.
Yep.
But he's like, okay, so why did we decide to stay here? And Teft says, well, I mean, it wouldn't do us any good to run. We'd end up conscripted into somebody's army anyway, or starving maybe out there in the middle of nowhere. And so Kaladin's got a plan. He's like, look, if we run now, we're just a bunch of former bridgemen, like 24 dudes. But if we spent a year training 1,000 troops under us, and then we needed to leave, well, then we would be a highly skilled mercenary force equipped with the best gear in the war camps. Maybe that's a better situation for us. And Moash is like, oh, yes, okay, this plan I like.
Yes, plan.
Do I get to learn to use a sword? We're still dark guys, Moash. But anyway, so you guys are going to be officers, and Sigzil and Rock will be all 5 of you will be my lieutenants. Rock's going to be the quartermaster since he won't fight. Sigzil will be our clerk. Teft's going to be in charge of training. So Moash, Scar, and Kaladin are going to be in charge of bodyguarding.
All of those in the previous book, I thought, all right, these are important characters, except Scar. There were multiple stretches I completely forgot Scar even existed. I would not have put money on him being an important character.
It was hard to keep track of everybody, honestly, and so many were coming and dying. And
I mean, it was, but like, Rock and Teft were Kaladin's first major allies, so we learned about them, and Moash was the big naysayer for quite a bit, and then Sigzil was the one who had the mysterious past and everything, or the mysterious knowledges and stuff. So it was easy to keep track of those ones at least. Like, I don't remember anything significant Scar did in the last book.
So the only thing that I really remember is that we 2 or 3 times were told as Kaladin's training them on using the spear that Moash is the best one. He's learning the fastest. Scar is right behind him. And so I assume that's why he ends up being one of the lieutenants here, because he's the next best guy with a spear at this point.
Oh, sure, that tracks, and it makes sense. And at least it's not just, this character we've never heard of from the bridge crew who's all of a sudden becoming important. I'm just like, I never would have picked that guy.
Eared Jax, who's been around the whole time, is now becoming one of the lieutenants, because even though we didn't know about him, he was awesome.
5-eared Jax, he's just accumulating them now.
Oh my gosh, he's making a necklace of ears. Yeah,
he has a belt.
Oh God,
a belt. He's got earrings made out of ears
with ears on his neck.
So much jewelry that you can make out of ears. Who even knew?
Yeah, I prefer a necklace made of teeth.
Cardassian neck bones. That was in a recent episode of Deep Space Nine that we did.
Oh, trying to promote your other podcasts on our podcast? You better cut that out.
So we cut to Hobber, our friend, who I think the main thing we know about him is that he has a gap in his teeth. But he was also like one of the first guys that Kaladin saved when he decided to start saving people instead of letting them die in the bridge cruise. He's the first one to get the tattoo that Kaladin has drawn the glyphs. So they're going to cover up the slave brand on his forehead with glyphs that explain that he is now free, and here's when he was freed. So anyone who tries to claim that he's still a slave, there is undisputable proof tattooed on his head that is not the case. I don't know what happens if you end up sold into slavery again, but whatever. And I like Hobber goes all the way through the process of getting the tattoo before being like, hey, what does this say? Which would have been my first question before letting them start working on me, but whatever.
Always get the spelling of a tattoo right first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't end up with soup.
Yeah, you don't want soup on your head.
There's a Stephen Lynch song about like dumb tattoos people get, and it's like, oh, you wanted to get your kids' names and the words "be strong," but they spelt it wrong, and now your back says "be stong."
Be stong.
I was just thinking about that song the other day. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody the other day got really offended when I was like, I don't think I would ever get a tattoo because I'm so like I know I would get it, be excited about it, and the next day I would look at it because I
regret it.
Well, yeah, not because it's a tattoo, but because I just change my mind about stuff a lot. Yep. So like I would just be like, oh no, I liked it yesterday, but today I hate it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
And so a friend of mine was like, you wouldn't even get like your wife's name tattooed on you? And I'm like, no, that's tacky. And they got like super offended by that. I was like, what?
do they have a tattoo?
Well, guess who's got their wife's name?
Yeah, I mean, he's not married, so I would hope he doesn't have some girl's name tattooed on him.
Well, that would just prove your point.
That would prove the point, exactly.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, good call.
Oh, yeah. No, but he got like super offended that I wouldn't get my wife's name tattooed on me. And I was like, I don't think she would want me to do that. So I think I'm cool. Like everything's fine.
Yeah,
also, and this isn't the usual usage of this phrase, but your body, your choice.
Let's be careful with that one, Dak.
I've always said that it's like thinking back on me of 10 years ago, there's nothing that guy liked enough to tattoo on himself that I would still want.
Right.
So that just like I'm pretty sure that the same will be true 10 years from now. So yeah, I've never gotten a tattoo.
Yeah.
Plus, it's also they're not cheap. It's like even if there's something that's like, oh yeah, I think I might still like that in 10 years. It's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, especially if you want like a not shitty one.
A good one. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go to like a really good artist and pay lots of money.
A lot of money and time.
People travel to like Europe to get good artists sometimes, so it's pretty crazy.
But yeah,
I can appreciate a good tattoo though. Like I am right there with you all. I don't want it. There's nothing that I can think of that I want on my body for life. And at one point I was like, I would consider getting like my future children's names or whatever on me. And then we had a child and I was like, but what if they decide they want to change their name one day? And then I've got their old name on me. And I'm like, well, that's not fair to them either. So I was like, well, no. Well, the one thing I thought maybe one day I'd get tattooed on me, I went, well, no.
Yeah.
I hadn't actually considered that, but that's a good point. Yeah. So I know people who have gotten their kids' names, and I was like, that makes sense. But yeah. I get that.
I mean, I quite like the name we chose. I hope she doesn't change it when she's older because I think it suits her. However, you never know where her life will take her and what she wants to do with it. So, yeah, no tattoos. But I can appreciate there are some people that have got some absolutely beautiful pieces on them. And I know a lot of people who are really creative and have taken a lot of time in designing like tattoos for themselves and for other people, and the work that goes into it, and it like the meaning behind it all is really beautiful. And I think it's an amazing art form. But just not for me.
Yeah.
100%.
That's how I feel about it too. I like seeing other people's tattoos, like what they found interesting enough to put on their bodies. It's just not for me.
I will always be tickled by I remember I saw once years ago there was a dude. He lost his arm. I can't remember how, below the elbow. Was it above the elbow? I forget which. And to show he was taking it in stride, he got around it tattooed the dotted line and then like the little scissors.
See, that's really clever.
That's that's good.
But also something that's probably not going to change for your life. Like the arm is gone. You might as well use that.
So true. That was my thought too. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, he's probably not going to grow a new arm, so it'll. And honestly, if you did get a new arm, it's still worth being like, look, see, here's where it was gone before. Like I could see that. Somehow you got a new arm. I mean, more power to you if you manage that.
Fucking Kurt Connors over here.
You probably couldn't see the tattoo if you got like lizard scales or whatever, though. So
yeah.
Or does the tattoo go over the scales?
I don't know. Can you tattoo a reptile?
This is an excellent question. They shed their skin, so I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know. Because how much dermis is shed? You know.
Yeah.
It may just be more like exfoliation.
Do we have any herpetologists listening who might be able to answer this question for us?
Have you ever tried to tattoo a lizard?
I don't think they would take too kindly to it.
I feel like there's probably some ethics questions in that.
Almost certainly. Yep. Okay. Back to this book that we're reading. There's tattoos happening there too. So Kaladin explains that the tattoo, as I mentioned earlier, it says freedom and it has the date that you were freed. And Hobber's like, that's good. But I want you to put what if you put like a butterfly on? No, not really. He's like, I want you to add Bridge 4. And Calvin's like, to show that you were freed from Bridge 4? He's like, no, I was freed by Bridge 4. I wouldn't trade my time there for anything. And Calvin's like, that's insane, but all right. And Hobber refuses to leave until this gets added to the tattoo. And we read through chapter 4. In my version, the page right after the end of chapter 4 shows you these tattoos. So if you guys haven't seen that, you can take a look at it.
I saw that too. You know, maybe it's because I'm sick and I get like even more emotional when I'm sick. But when he said like I wouldn't trade my time with them for anything, I got a little choked up reading that. I was like, oh man. And then when Kaladin's like, you're crazy, I was like, oh.
Yeah, see, I'm more on Kaladin's side. Like, I get that you've built this relationship with these people, but
but also some really bad stuff happened to you. No, I get it. Like, you know, makes sense.
I would trade my time being a slave for not being a slave. But if I had to be a slave, this is how I'd like to do it.
See,
but with less death and stuff.
There's a big difference there between like, if I have to be, this was the best way, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, didn't you get shot in the leg or something, my man?
Yeah.
But and then everyone else wants the exact same tattoo. All the like Scar sits down, he wants the same set of tattoos. So not all of them were slaves. Moash, for instance, was never a slave, so he doesn't have that brand to cover up. Like the whole point of the tattoo is we're covering up that scar in the middle of your head.
Imagine after this speech, Hobber's like, "Yay, I'm Hobber, trendsetter."
Yeah, basically.
I don't know why he has a Zoidberg voice, but he does now.
I'm okay with it. Yeah. Hobber can permanently be Zoidberg. I'm good with that.
Who else but Hobber?
So Teft also was never a slave, but he wants the full set of tattoos right on his head. Rock as well.
Yeah. One more. And Kaladin rolls up. It's Kaladin, and I'm his friend Harbor.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, I'm never going to be able to unhear this now. This is so
Right?
good.
It's somehow the gap tooth gives you a Zoidberg accent. Who knew? And I like that it mentions one other guy who's a member of the crew and got the tattoo, even though he never had a slave brand, is Beld, a guy that I don't think we've ever heard of.
Yep, that is definitely a new name.
But he was there too. Moash
Mine just says participant.
Moash gets the tattoo on his upper arm, and Kaladin thinks good. And I also was like, yeah, no, that's what I would do. So, and then they plop Shen. I guess they don't shove him in the chair. Shen goes and sits down. He seems to want this tattoo also. And the tattoo artist is like, I can't do that. He's property. And Hopper is the one who jumps in. He's like, no, he's one of us. He gets the tattoo or we don't pay you.
Yeah, don't fuck with Hobber.
Don't mess with his friends. And then Hopper's kind of embarrassed because Hopper doesn't actually have any money. Kaladin's the one paying for this, so maybe he shouldn't speak for him.
Just like Zoidberg, he has no money.
Yeah, exactly. It's war and war all the time. Look. And so eventually the tattoo artist is like, okay, fine. And puts the tattoo on Shen also. And Shen stands up and nods. And he's like, okay. So I guess, yeah, he wanted the tattoo. If you want it, good for you, my man.
Is this the first time we've seen Shen since Kaladin started dancing around in Parshendi Bones?
It might be. Yeah, since he's like crying. But yeah, because they decide that they can't take him on bridge runs anymore. And they get permission to
keep leaving him behind.
So yeah, maybe. So apparently he's not holding a grudge about that. He's still part of the team.
Or if he is, he's just keeping it to himself.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have to get the tattoo.
No, he does what other people do. Everyone else is getting them.
Yeah. And then Kaladin sits down, and the tattoo starts working on him, and it doesn't work. He realizes he's pulled in some stormlight, and it's healing the tattoo and shoving the ink out as she works. And so he's like, okay, hold on. He has to like get rid of the stormlight, and then intentionally not pull any more in as she works on it. And then as soon as she's done, he sucks in more stormlight, and the tattoo's gone again.
She's like, I'm charging you extra for redos.
Right? She actually seems to be blaming herself. She's like, I don't know why this is happening. Oh God, please give me my money.
Yeah,
I really thought it would work.
I think because there's no logical explanation for her to say this is your fault. Like, how would she know that?
Right?
Yeah.
And so I like his conclusion is the scars haven't finished with me yet. It appears. I'll try again another time.
So does he still have the slave brand?
Yeah.
That's
He
weird.
does. Yeah, the tattoo heals, but the brand doesn't. That is. So they leave there on that kind of bittersweet note that everyone is good except for Kaladin, who's going to continue to have slave brands on his forehead, apparently.
Maybe Syl is just next to him, invisible, and sees the ink going on. It's like, that's not how you spell my name. Get that fucking off there. And slaps it off.
That would be hilarious, actually. It's like, I want you to write Syl right here. It'll be great. And as they walk to their next destination, like some guys that they pass who are on patrol, like give them the Bridge 4 salute. And they're like, what the hell? How did that even happen? And Sigzel's like, man, kind of nice to be a hero, huh? And Moash tries to be a downer again. And Rock's like, no complaining. You do this thing too much. Don't make me kick you. It hurts my toes. And Moash is like, what are you talking about? Kick me. You won't fight. You won't even hold a spear. And he's like, spears are not for kicking complainers. Big unkalaki feet like mine. That is what they are made for. I continue to love Rock. He's great. And so we get to the quartermaster, and we got Dalinar's quartermaster is a low-level Light Eyes, just barely above Dark Eyes, and he's very excited about these new guys. And he's like, "Oh, you're here, great! I got everything ready for you. Uniforms of the Cobalt Guard, all the leftover stuff. Didn't expect to need so many so soon." And Moash, still being a downer, is like, "Oh, I'm gonna look silly in this." And then he goes into the room and gets dressed and comes out and looks fucking badass. He's like, "You still think you look silly?" And he's like, "No, I don't."
Fucking Moash saying yes to the dress over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
And then
doing
everyone
extreme makeover.
He did also get a tattoo, so that's a little bit of an extreme makeover, sure.
Cobalt eye for the bridge guy.
Wow.
Stretching it a little bit.
Yeah, that was a reach.
I like that though.
I like. It's not that I didn't like it. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. And so yeah, they all start putting on their new fancy blue uniforms. They're like a slightly different shade of blue from the rest of the army because they're the bodyguards, the Cobalt Guard, as they were called. But that turns out to be an issue because, is it Hopper again? He's like, hey, what's this patch? It's Lopin, I'm sorry. Teft grumbles, and Lopin, who is putting on the uniform and just like turns the one sleeve inside out for the arm that he doesn't have. It's like, hey, what's this thing? Oh yeah, that's the Cobalt Guard insignia. And Lopin's like, they're dead, Goncho. We're not them. And it says, Scar says, yeah, and to the quartermaster's horror, gets out a knife and cuts the patch off. We're Bridge 4. And Cal's like, well, Bridge 4 was your prison. He's like, no, we're Bridge 4. It's like, okay, I guess you'll have to get a new patch made up. I'll draw you a thing to use.
I like how they just insist on it. Calden's like, well, that was your prison. He's like, no, you don't understand. We're Bridge 4. It's like, wait, what? Okay.
Like Kaladin, who's ostensibly their boss, he's the captain. He's just keeps giving in on this stuff. He's like, okay, fine. You guys have your way. Get the crazy tattoos. We'll get new patches made. I'm sure that won't cost $1 million or whatever. I don't know how hard it is to make patches in this world.
I would imagine it's pretty easy. They just use their magic or whatever.
Oh, maybe. You think you can like soul cast a patch with like an exact design on it?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of soul casting, but I would assume it's like if I could see it in my mind's eye, I can make it.
And so Kaladin, as the captain, and like the quartermaster's like, man, a dark-eyed captain. You'll be the only one in the army, the only one ever, as far as I know. But he actually seems kind of into this idea. He's like, oh, this is cool. As captain, he gets a fancier uniform with a waistcoat and a double-breasted long coat and silver buttons and all this fanciness. So Kaladin's looking good. Is basically what I'm getting at. And there's a lot of like fan art and pictures of Kaladin wearing like the blue uniform, which I couldn't show you guys in the last book because that kind of gives away a big secret. So there's a lot of art that you guys are not allowed to see before now. I'll find a good one at some point of Kaladin wearing like this long coat so you can kind of see how it looks. That's the end of Bridge 4 chapter, and then we get Shallan's sketchbook page of the Santhid, which, like Dak called it, it looks very much like a giant turtle jellyfish to me. Although the image of the eye is very striking and dramatic. I like the way that she drew that.
She's good at drawing, and she has good memory.
Yeah. And we move into chapter 3, Pattern. Navani's journal says soldiers reported being watched from afar by an unnerving number of Parshendi scouts. Then we noticed a new pattern of them penetrating close to the camps in the night, and then quickly retreating. I can only surmise that our enemies were even then preparing their stratagem to end this war.
Whoa.
That doesn't bode ill or anything. And Shallan is reading a book about the hierocracy, or at least the results of the hierocracy, which, if we remember from the last book, is mentioned a few times as like when the church tried to take over the world, essentially. As part of this, the Vorin Church had near absolute control over the eastern parts of the continent. And they had all of these things that they were claiming was truth. And as part of this program, they started taking old texts, and copying them into new versions, which they would change to back up their claims about history, essentially. Which means that there's not many sources from before the hierocracy that you can actually trust on some of this stuff, because you don't know what they changed and didn't change. So it makes studying things like the Radiance and Shadesmar a little difficult, because the church had certain feelings about the Radiance. And while she's looking at that, the pattern comes back. She's been watching for it. It kind of pops up, and she says if she looks right at it, then it disappears, so she's trying to like watch it from the corner of her eye. And watching it some, she realizes this is one of those things. This is one of those symbol heads. The pattern that she's seeing float around looks like their heads. And then she looks at it, and before it can fade away, she takes a memory and she starts to draw it. She's like, I got you now. And she gets into a very intense drawing thing where like her pencil isn't fine enough to draw the line. She has to get out a pen. And by the time she's done, there's like hundreds of creation spren all around her. She's so deep into creating this image. And just as the image dries, the pattern rises up and the thing has like come out of the drawing in some way. And then it moves from the paper onto the floor and heads off, climbing onto like the blanket and stuff. So it can just kind of like transition surfaces somehow. Because it seems to be coming up like it's an upraised part of whatever surface it's on, but it just moves from one surface to another with no issues. So it's kind of weird.
That is weird.
And so she goes to the door. She wants to go find Jasnah, and Jasnah's right outside her door. And in her hand is a little man made of inky blackness, wearing a fashionable suit with a long coat. And when they see Shallan come out, the thing melts away. And Jasnah's like, okay, put on some clothes. We got stuff to talk about. Jasnah says that originally she hoped that the two of them would have the same kind of spren, but that's not the case. I've suspected since Kharbranth that we would be of different orders. And Shallan's like, wait, orders? Yeah. Each order of the Knights Radiant, as we discover, has access to 2 of the surges, and there's overlap between them. We call the power surge binding. Soul casting is one of those, and that's the one that we share. So 10 orders of Knights Radiant, each one with 2 surges, but each one shares one of those surges with another group, another order. And they get into a discussion about like, oh, wait, am I a Radiant? And Jasnah's like, well, like the organization of the Knights Radiant doesn't exist anymore, but we can do the things that defined what made you a Knight Radiant at one point. And Shallan's like, but wait, there were women among the Knights Radiant? And Jasnah's like, a statistically appropriate number. But she does have one interesting fact that like the archetype of Radiance on the battlefield is an exaggeration. From what I've read, though the records are untrustworthy, for every Radiant dedicated to battle, there were another 3 who spent their time on diplomacy, scholarship, or other ways to aid society. So that's new information. And Shallan's a little bit disappointed by that, and then thinks, fool. A memory rose unbidden, a silvery sword, a pattern of light, truths she could not face. She banished them, squeezing her eyes shut, 10 heartbeats. So Jasnah has been researching the creatures with the symbol heads. And Shallan's like, yeah, this is one of them. And as they watch, the pattern goes up onto a trunk and then off of it like a child jumping on a sofa. And Jasnah says, yeah, that's what I figured. Most spren manifest differently here than they do in Shadesmar. And what you drew before was their form in Shadesmar. So in Shadesmar, they have symbol heads and cloaks and whatever. Here, they're symbols on the floor. Which I think begs the question of what do you think Syl looks like in Shadesmar versus what she looks like here? And Shallan's like, this one's not very impressive. And Jasnah's like, yeah, I'm a little disappointed about that.
He's probably just pissed off because he's like, like in Shadesmar, he's like big dude, like has a nice fancy robe in here. He's just like, wait, what the fuck is this? How did I?
She says the cryptics have a fearful reputation, and yet this one, the first one I've seen, seems. And Shallan's like, imbecilic? But so we have a name for them finally. We don't have to call them symbol heads anymore. They're called cryptics. And Jasnah goes on to explain that we would probably call them lie spren. So Syl's an honor spren. This is a lie spren. But they don't like that name. They call themselves cryptics. Jasnah also mentions that maybe this one just needs more time. When I first bonded with Ivory, and then goes, I'm sorry, he doesn't like me talking about him. So that gives us more information. She has a spren. It's a boy. Its name is Ivory.
Yeah.
And maybe, kind of like you guys mentioned, we saw like Syl took a while to develop intellectually after she kind of connected with Kaladin. And it sounds like maybe Ivory was the same way based on what Lily Jasnah says.
So there's got to be like some difference between when they're in Shadesmar and when they're not, like mentally. Like, because if Ivory took a while to be more aware or whatever, and so did Syl, and then I guess so was Shallan's, like there's got to be some disconnect in how they interact, think, or whatever when they are on Roshar, like Roshar proper as opposed to Shadesmar.
Yeah, it seems like it, right? Supposedly, she says they're intelligent. They like build cities and have societies on the other side. So something happens when they cross over or something, I guess. I don't know. We find out a little more about at least their theory about how spren work. We've got spren that relate to emotions, but we've also got spren that relate to natural forces, which is 2 categories that the 2 of them at least agree that spren can be divided into these 2 categories. We find out there are 10 fundamental surges. Gravitation, pressure, and transformation are 3 of those, she says. And so there's 10 orders, each with 2 surges. There's 10 surges, So you can tell that they each have to share each of their surges with another group. So everybody gets 2, but you share one of those 2 with a different group. Well, you share each of those 2 with different groups, I guess is what I should say. And then Jasnah says that she thinks that these groupings of spren explain the ideas of mankind's primeval gods. Honor, who became Vorinism's almighty, obviously was created by men to represent an ideal human emotion. Cultivation, the god worshipped in the West, is a female deity, the embodiment of nature and nature spren. And then the void spren have an unseen lord whose name changes depending on the culture.
Yes, they were made up by man, Jasnah. That's correct.
I mean, it seems to be confirmation about y'all's theory that a certain almighty was a shard named Honor.
Look no further into the matter.
And we've heard the name Cultivation. I think Dak pointed out that came out of Secret History. We heard about a shard called Cultivation. So
true.
Interesting things in information coming out. And then she gets into a whole thing like the Stormfather is a weird offshoot. I don't even, and then she's like, I'm sorry, that was a tangent. My bad. Also, the Night Watcher is a powerful spren. Maybe the Almighty is just like something like that. And we end the chapter with her basically telling Shallan, you're the only person in centuries to have a chance to interact with the cryptic. Study it, record your experiences in detail. This will likely be your first writing of significance and could be of utmost importance to our future. And then Shallan looks at the pattern, which is bumping into her foot over and over. And she's like, great.
Have fun. Bye.
I get to babysit for 3 days. This is awesome.
It does, yeah. It's very reminiscent of a little one.
At least it doesn't need to eat, and it probably doesn't poop, so you're good.
That is a benefit, yeah. You're not wrong. And finally, we have Taker of Secrets, Chapter 4. The journal says, the next clue came on the walls. I did not ignore this sign, but neither did I grasp its full implications. And then later in this chapter, we see something on the walls. So presumably these are connected in some way.
Ooh.
Dalinar is in a vision, and he's reciting what is happening as he goes, so that Navani can record it out in the real world. And he appears to be running through what he thinks is the Pure Lake, because it's warm water that comes up to your knees. Other people are running with him.
Out in the Pure Lake, eh? I don't know why Pure Lake always just makes me think of like Midwest or Canada.
Yeah. Sure, why not? I'm okay with it.
Come out to the Pure Lake, eh?
Oh, yeah, don't you know?
Yeah, I was having sex with a little one in the Pure Lake.
My God, does that mean they're like lake moose?
Sure.
Pure Lake moose. That's the giant creature that comes out, obviously.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Run, it's the Pure Lake moose. They're
You don't want to mess with a moose, man.
They're like the moose version of Jaws.
We'll never get that movie.
No, I don't think that movie's coming out.
Yeah, it's a shame. And then there's a big fortress made of jet black stone in the middle of the Pure Lake. And he's like, this must not be there anymore because this would be freaking famous. And so they catch up with some other soldiers and a shard bearer with glowing armor. Oh, it must be a Knight Radiant. So this must be before the Recreants, where the Radiants abandoned mankind or whatever. And the Knight says, I don't know how you say this name, Caeb, Cab, thinks he saw something. Be alert. And he asks what they're looking for. And somebody says, a spren that doesn't act like it should. Keep your eyes open. Once Jasnah touches a spren, it acts strange. Call attention to anything you see. I don't remember if we'd seen that name before, but that's fun to pronounce.
Who?
And the Knight seems to be talking to someone, but he doesn't see anyone. So he's like, well, that's weird. But we now know that Knights Radiant get powers by working with a spren. So maybe she's talking to her own spren. And he's like, man, I always wanted to see the Pure Lake. This is pretty cool. And then he sees something dart through the water, a face. It's like, I saw a face in the water. And they're like, River Spren? So I guess River Spren looked like a face? I don't know. It looked like a shadow with red eyes. And they're like, it's here then. Jasnah's spy. He won't be able to go far without a carrier. Keep watching. And then they see it, and they dart after it. And that's when something happens. Another little thing comes up to join. Larger. A swimming person, but like a shadow. And then I goes, I brought an escort. And then the bigger spren disappears into the ground. And suddenly the ground starts cracking. And a huge form pulls out of the lake. an arm comes out first, and he says it's maybe a 15-foot long arm. Another arm comes up, and it's like it's doing a push-up to push itself up out of the rocks. And someone yells, "Thunderclast, hammers!" And we've heard the term Thunderclast before, and we've seen like dead creatures in flashbacks made of rock, so this is just fitting with some of the other things that we've encountered, I think. And then a voice starts talking. They were created to watch. The Knights Radiant, they were a solution, a way to offset the destruction of the desolations. 10 orders to help men fight and then rebuild. I was surprised by this. I did not teach my heralds this. It was the spren wishing to imitate what I had given men who made it possible. You'll need to refound them. This is your task. Create a fortress that can weather the storm. Vex Odium. Convince him that he can lose and appoint a champion. He'll take that chance instead of risking defeat again, as he has suffered so often. This is the best advice I can give you. And Dalinar's like, if you were surprised by the knights, then you can't be God. God wouldn't be surprised by things. Also, you're dead and God can't be killed. So, and then things fade away and he's back with Navani, who's trying to write down what he said. And she's like, man, it gets hard when you change languages. He's like, I did? Yeah, you were speaking Saleh and then you switched to something else. And it's tough on her trying to record everything. He's like, maybe we should invite more scholars in to help write this stuff down, but I don't really want to become a show for other people. I have to refound the Knights Radiant. And she's like, what does that even mean? I don't know. I don't know anything.
I'm just doing what I'm doing. That's just what I'm supposed to do, woman. Don't ask me the questions. I don't know.
She's like, why do you have to do this? And he's like, well, I don't know.
I can't exactly turn it off.
Yeah, right. I didn't choose these visions. They're publishing a proclamation this week, and he actually wanted to release it earlier, but Navani convinced him to let the High Princes know first, give them time to prepare for this proclamation. The High Princes are spoiled children. If we want to change them, it will require extreme measures. We already kind of knew about it. That was the way the last book ended, with him talking about what he was going to do. So, and then the question of them marrying comes up, and she's like, is it the morality of the thing that's bothering you? Like, the Almighty's dead. He's like, something's right or wrong. The Almighty doesn't come into it. And she's like, so God doesn't come into whether his commands are right or wrong. Yes. And he says, God isn't dead. If the Almighty died, then he just wasn't God. That's all.
I can see the logic.
Yeah. I mean, if you believe somebody created things, then yeah, I buy it. And he sends her back to wherever she stays, maybe in the king's palace, I kind of assume. I don't know. And sends Kaladin to watch her on her way back. And then, as he walks into another room, someone has carved into the wall, 62 days, death follows. So,
well, there's some time there. There's some like lost time, I feel like, because it's not immediately, right? It's like, is it immediately? Did I read it
okay.
wrong?
No, you didn't. He kind of falls to sleep. It says he started awake sometime later.
Yeah, but it doesn't like say like he sat down and went to sleep. It just kind of like weirdly transitions, I feel like, which I was like, man, is there something more to him like dozing off?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought the same thing. I was like, did I just miss something here? So thank you. I thought I just missed something again.
So yeah, it basically just says he sat down in a chair by the fire, and then it cuts to like he woke up a little bit later. So yeah, there could definitely be something more there.
We've all had those kind of naps though, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just sit down for a second and you wake up and it's an hour later.
I'm not good at napping sitting up. It's really like my body just is not good at it unless I'm in a vehicle and it's like, I don't have a choice.
I'd have thought that maybe like someone knocked him out. Like,
yeah, that was
early.
my thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Use some like sleeping gas or something. I don't know if that exists in Roshar, but it should.
It should.
They can use a Fabrial to make one.
Yeah, it's true.
He's puffing on a pipe and someone just soul casts the pipe into sleeping gas.
Yeah. What it didn't say is off page. He ate some jam earlier and it was sleeping jam.
Oh no!
Sleepy jam. They got him.
Ghost Bloods are at it again. Sleepy jam.
Yeah, I can't sleep sitting up, and which makes long plane rides tough. But
Yeah, if I have no other choice, I'll doze off. But yeah, I don't sleep well and not long usually.
So yes, he wakes up, goes into the other room, finds these glyphs carved into the wall. So not like women's script writing, but glyphs that say 62 days, death follows. And when it cuts, there's like we get a note that like Kaladin took Navani all the way back to where she lives, came back, and then immediately had to run off and get Navani and bring her back again. And Adolin is here now too, and everyone is like, oh, what the hell happened? And we get a young female ardent named Rushu, who's just like critiquing the writing. Like, look how sloppy this is. And the meaning is vague. Like, jeez.
Why is there a grammar Nazi here?
And Navani's just like, just make a copy, Rushu, and don't speak about this to anyone. Not even to you? Rushu asks.
Ugh.
And Navani's like, she really is good at what she does. So apparently Navani called this person in because she's good at whatever it is she does.
Apparently critiquing grammar. Get her the fuck out of here before she starts banging on about conjugatives for 45 minutes.
Priorities, though, like threats have been made and you've got to point out the grammar. It's probably not the way to go, but it's probably something to it.
Yeah, that'll turn out to be the most significant thing is the spotting of grammar issues.
You see, where the sign says Seth was here, they're using an archaic glyph for the was. It actually says is. And Seth bursts out of the cup. It's like, oh no, discovered.
He's got one of those. He's got one of those bodysuits like Sherlock Holmes. He's just like against the wall.
Oh yeah, it took me a minute to remember what you were talking about. Where he's like, he looks like the chair.
Yeah, which I'm like, why did you pick a chair? If somebody sat in the chair, you would immediately be discovered.
Who's gonna sit in a chair?
Also, I feel like if you walked by that chair in your peripheral vision, you would notice the 3D like outline of a person sitting in the chair.
It works from a certain point of perspective.
Yeah, as long as you don't move too much, it's perfect. Okay. Now that we've done with Rushu and her, Kaladin, on the other hand, is feeling like he hasn't done his job right. He's like, I just started working for you, and already I'm screwing stuff up.
I mean, this is probably, Dark Eyes talking to Light Eyes. He's just got the whole, oh god, don't hit me going on.
And there's even a note that it says Adolin certainly did not like hearing that this dark-eyed bridgeman had been put in charge of the Cobalt Guard. So we don't actually get all we get is like Adolin's jaw tightening as he looks at Kaladin, and Kaladin seems to be interpreting this from that. But I mean, given what we know of him, I don't doubt that Kaladin can be correct.
I think there's a lot of stuff Adolin's probably not happy about. He's not happy that a Dark Eyes guy is a captain. He's not happy that he's in charge of like 1,000 guys. He's not happy that the guy was mean to him when they were in the middle of that battle. He's not happy that his dad gave up his shard blade for them to their enemy. He's probably not happy about a lot of stuff.
He's just finally come around on maybe my dad was right, and then his dad does all this stuff, and he's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
That's true. I hadn't thought about it that way. It's like finally accepting that his dad knows what oh God, what are you doing now? Yeah, okay. And Dalinar is basically like, no, it's fine. We'll keep a better eye out in the future. It's all good. And Dalinar wonders to himself, like, why do I trust this guy so much? Can't put my finger on it, but something tells me that I should trust him.
Wiry, fast, firm, proud buttocks. He reminds me of me.
And Navani says, why do I get the impression that you know why this is here? And Dalinar says, I don't know who made it, but I know what it means. She goes, okay, then what? It means we have very little time left. Send out the proclamation, and then arrange a meeting with the High Princes. They'll want to speak to me. And he thinks something that he's heard in the visions, the Everstorm comes. And then 62 days, not enough time, but it was apparently all he had. And that's the end of the chapter, except for right after that, like I said, you get the image of the tattoos. You get the Bridge 4 uniform insignia, which is the patch that Kaladin said he was going to draw up. And you get a note that says, I had to spend hours watching bridgemen to sketch their stupid forehead glyphs so that you could have them, my friend. I'm pretty sure this is how they were designed. Signed, Naz.
I like how annoyed he is. Yeah. Just like, I had to watch these guys for days.
So Naz is around here somewhere trying to sketch the bridgeman. Keep an eye out, see if you can spot him.
Is he spottable?
He is, in fact.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
Oh.
Like, this better not be keep an eye out for him, and he just never actually fucking appears in text.
When he's the one that's from Roshar, right?
No, Naz is the one who's from
He's from Threnody.
Yeah, from Threnody.
That's right. I knew he was from somewhere we'd read recently.
Yeah. That is the end of our chapters. So let's move into predicaments. Where are we going? What is going to happen now? We're kind of setting the stage where everybody is at the beginning of this book.
Man, yeah, I think Kaladin and the rest of the Bridge 4 crew, they're going to slowly but surely kind of settle into their roles. They're going to have to work harder, I think, to try to look at plots that may be happening against Dalinar, and kind of shift to oppose those. And then Shallan, Jasnah, eventually they're going to get to the Shattered Plains, so that will kind of have all our characters from the original book converge in one place. I'll be interested to see the dynamic. I'm going to guess Jasnah won't be surprised by the relationship between Navani and her uncle, and she'll probably be like, I guess if they must. It'll be one of those types of things. And I guess, once all those people converge, maybe we'll have a whole group of people kind of trying to figure out the plot against them and what's happening and, what they should be doing. It's pretty much all I have. There's not a lot we didn't get a ton of stuff plot-wise other than what happened at the very end to kind of let us know what could be coming soon in the future. But that would be my guesses for this week.
I do like the idea that it's like, let's get everybody together and team up and try to figure out what the hell is going on. Like, put everybody in the same place. Maybe some information will come out.
Sure. Shallan will meet Adolin, and then she'll be like, oh, Renarin's better.
It could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, still pretty early in the book, but as I said at the beginning, we've got a time frame now until we think something is going to happen. So I think Kaladin and Dalinar will probably be spending a lot more time together. Obviously, they need to up the security, which is going to probably move the former Bridgeman's timeline up as well for training. So they may up like who gets trained and who goes where, I guess. I think that we will see Jasnah and Shallan before the 62 days is up. I feel like, not having any real concept of how long it takes to get anywhere in Roshar, seems like enough time to get somewhere. Could be wrong. Who knows? If Navani's journal entries are right, perhaps we'll see some changes in the Pashendi pretty soon if we haven't seen them already. Maybe we have kind of at the tail end of the last book when, Kaladin changed the game by, wearing their skeletons on their armor. They haven't fully changed already, but maybe the next run that happens we'll start to see those changes come through. What I would like to see, so learning that each order of the Knights Radiant had like 2 abilities. I obviously really want to know what Jasnah's ability is, but it would be interesting if either she or Shallan then shared one with Kaladin. Because that would be cool if they were then kind of learning that together. I don't know that we've got an indication of what Kaladin's second ability is, because he seems to be all like what we've seen with Seth. It's all that gravitational stuff going on. And I don't know whether we've already seen what the second ability is or if it's completely different. So I'd like to see what that looks like. And I'm also just super interested to see about Shallan's little spren friend. What happens there? I hope that happens quickly, because if we have to have chapters and chapters of Shallan watching this thing bob around, might be a bit boring.
Okay, but now that would be funny if it's just like the entire book, this thing's just like flopping around, bumping into things. I mean, it wasn't like that with Syl, so hopefully you're right. We won't end up in that place, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, maybe they'll learn quickly. Hopefully,
I do like that you pointed out, like, we have no idea how long it takes to get from one place to another in Roshar, so we have no frame of reference for how long it will take Jasnah and Shallan to arrive on the Shattered Plains. Which
I was trying to remember how long Shallan had been traveling for before she got to Kharbranth, but I'm not sure if we ever found out. Like, in my head, it's weeks, but.
Well, okay, I'm going to go back to that because that's a fair question. I feel like it was months, but let's.
Well, she was. I think it said she was pursuing Jasnah for like 6 months, but that doesn't mean like it was like. I think she had been to a few places before Kharbranth, and Jasnah had left when she got there. So
she'll be right when she gets to Kharbranth. I think what you said sounds right to me. That it was like 6 months, but
was stopping, investigating, chasing. She doesn't need to do that this time.
Yeah,
And also
exactly.
she was coming from Yarkoved, not the Shattered Plains, which could be better or worse.
Yeah. I mean, geographically, I feel like on the map it looks closer. I guess it depends on where in Yakoved you're going to, but yeah, or coming from, whichever. Yeah, the better part of 6 months she's been chasing Jasnah at that point. But as you said, it's hard to compare that and know what we're talking about. So I guess we'll find out if they make it this book. Maybe it will be within the 62 days.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, they just rock up on the Shattered Plains and it's just devoid of life? Everyone's gone. Like, we shouldn't have stopped for that haircut. Sorry.
We missed something.
Yeah, I'm also just like, I don't really know. Kind of just waiting for a bit something more monumental to happen before I can start basing any predictions off. Did you give us the chapter names for the next few?
Oh, no, I didn't do that. Yeah, hold on. Let me pull that out. Next time, we are reading 2 chapters, and those chapters are going to be called... Sorry, I went into Way of Kings. Let me get back to Words of Radiance. Chapter 5 is called Ideals, and Chapter 6 is called Terrible Destruction.
Righto.
Yeah.
Ideals makes me think Dalinar. Terrible Destruction could be anyone at this point. Terrible Destruction. Are we getting an Elcar perspective? No, that's not fair.
Burn Elcar.
Honestly, I don't really have much in the way of predictions, so I do want to throw out something that I hope happens at sometime soon. We're getting a lot of, Kaladin with Dalinar and a little bit of Kaladin with Adolin. I really want to see Kaladin and Renarin hang out, because I mean, presumably, like Kaladin's guys are also protecting Renarin because he's part of Dalinar's family. So it'd be nice just to see that kind of interaction, because Renarin's a very different type of person to Adolin. Maybe he and Kaladin would get along. Maybe Kaladin would see something of Tien in him, which might make him have to rethink his relationship with Adolin a bit. I don't know, but I feel like Renarin.
Good old Renarin.
They did the fusion dance. Yeah, no, I would like to see Renarin just interacting with more characters beyond his brother, his dad, and his aunt / soon-to-be stepmom.
That's fair. Yeah, we haven't seen that much from Renarin interacting with anybody. Even, I mean, his brother or his dad is probably who we see him with most often, and even there, we haven't seen that much of him. So
yeah,
I'd be interested in seeing more regardless.
The few times we've seen him with Navani, they seem to get on really well because they have similar interests. So I'm like, all right, we just need to see different people interacting with this dude, and not Sadeas, because Sadeas will just go, oh, that dickhead.
Yeah, do you really want to see Sadeas interacting with anybody? Let's be honest.
If it involves him dying, then yeah.
Okay, no, that's fair.
Yep. Oh, can you imagine? It's like to maintain the peace in air quotes. Dalinar has Sadeas and his retinue come to his camp for a meal to discuss things, and Sadeas is just like, oh, what's he up to? What's he up to? He's gonna do anything. And Dalinar is just like the picture of being a good host, manners and everything. Sadeas doesn't know what his game is. And then Dalinar goes, by the way, have you met my new cook? And Rock just walks up and goes, hello!
Sadeas is like, yes, I have.
Sadeas is like, how did you even know about that? Oh, he doesn't hide it.
No, Rock tells everybody about it. What are you talking about?
That is how Rock says hello in this water camp.
I'd be bragging about that shit too. I fed Sadeas Shuldog and then escaped.
He'd be like a hero to Dalinar's army, because they're all just like, Sadeas betrayed us, and Rock's like, did I tell you how I fed Sadeas chol shit? Even Adolin loves this guy.
Yeah, honestly, who could not love Rock? Other than obviously Sadeas because he ate the chol shit, but other than that, you spend some time with Rock, he's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we got some predicaments moving forward. Let's move into other things. What was I trying to bring up? We got a review, we got a new patron, and we got some emails. So, Joe, get your lists ready, and I'll do the emails first to give you time. The first one is called Words of Radiance Song Suggestion, which, sorry, here on the second episode of Words of Radiance, I have already had to select the song. But Jordan says, hey, Sanderlanche crew, but specifically Data, heard the pod today when you aren't sure about the song for the next book. I figure I'd stump for To Be Better, which was one of the possibilities that I had on the list. It did not win, though. the vote. I could suggest Beneath the Black Flag or Hell to Pay as other possibilities, which I've thought about using to be Beneath the Black Flag somewhere, but I don't know that it seems to fit anywhere because it's just about like pirates.
Yeah, it's
being
too
piratey.
piratey. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
It's
very
like
much
yo
a
ho,
piratey song.
yo ho. Like yeah, like there's no room for pirates on the Shattered Plains.
I mean, Jasnah and Shallan are out there. They could become pirates. They're on the sea.
I don't think that if all the things I would predict, I don't think that's one of them.
They could become chef pirates.
It's been done.
It turns out that that's something that
Yeah.
keeps recurring in Brandon's books, and you guys just don't know.
Sure.
Yet.
maybe
Horse
maybe
hate
the
and
Pashen-
chef pirates.
Maybe the Parshendi are the pirates, and they just have like great shell, like they're using a great shell carapace as a boat.
Oh, okay, I can see it. Oh, the Parshendi. We still know nothing about you, or very little. We know that you guys fessed up to the murder of the king, and then 3 people got hanged. But other than that,
Well, I mean, if Jasnah's right, they're the forces of hell.
that's true.
You know, that's not an insignificant thing.
No, I think we had on the show some hopes that it would be a little more nuanced than that, but
Oh, sure, but
it could be.
it's fun to say.
Jasnah is frequently right about things we've discovered. So, okay, that was that email. Thank you for your suggestion. The next one is from Rory, who emailed us not long ago. Says, still catching up. Hey, Sanderlanche crew. Almost finished with Elantris, and wow, I did not remember a lot of this book. Raoden's dad doing naked human sacrifices and then hanging himself came out of nowhere for me.
Does
And
sound
I
like
love-
a memorable thing.
Right? Yeah. Although really, I mean, in the grand strokes of that book, it's like a side note for sure.
Yeah, I don't think any of us predicted that because none of us would be like, yeah, that's something he would do. Or would it matter to the overall plot?
Mm. Also, I love how you guys managed to predict Keen being the pirate as a joke and kept referencing it, almost as good as joking that Vin's Kandra dog was Zane's dog, which that was a recurring joke that Zane kept wanting his dog back.
I forgot about
right, yeah.
that.
Classic us making jokes about stuff that's real.
I feel like the pirate thing though was just because it was specifically he was the chef pirate. It was just
The
that
chef.
much more bizarre and weird and funny.
And then
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, I think I was like, yeah, he's like Sanji from One Piece.
And then also, even though I'm several years late, congrats to Dak and Jamie on their baby. Wasn't to the time of next, Colo from Rory.
Oh, boy, do I have a surprise for you, Rory.
Yeah, by the time you get, we're
We
gonna
can
get
cut
another
these, but you
email in the
never-
middle of Mistborn, like Joe, good, congrats.
Yeah.
Okay, those were our emails. Let's we'll move to the Patreon first, where we have one new Ska level backer, Alyssa.
Alyssa, hey, Alyssa, you're a fortunate soul. You're a spinner. You store that fortune.
I feel like that's what we don't know enough about how fortune works to know, but that's always one that I felt like has a lot of potential. Just
Right.
go to the casino.
But also, like, when you're storing it, are you just really unlucky all day?
Yeah, like it's how unlucky. Like, is a lightning bolt gonna hit you? 'Cause
Right.
That's not
Or,
worth
like,
it.
if you lay in bed, does the house collapse on you because you're trying to avoid being at misfortune, but misfortune has to happen to you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know.
Have to be a really delicate balance.
Or if you were a compounder, you could just save up a tiny bit and then start compounding it and be good.
Yeah, well, we can't all be compounders.
Yep.
I wonder if, like, you could just purposely lose at games and that would help you store fortune.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, just give it an outlet instead of just like trying to lay in bed and arrange so that nothing can happen. Give an outlet for something to happen.
Yeah, like a no
just go
stakes
bowling.
game.
And
Yeah, just do really poor at bowling.
okay, I like this. Okay, and then we have one new review from Apple Podcasts. I'm gonna have to read the name of this reviewer because I'm not sure how I would say this. AKCIWI $28 exclamation point. So
Sweet.
That was a ride.
yep. The title says great way to re-experience the Cosmere. And the review says 5 stars. My third Sanderson podcast, so I may be biased, but it is excellent, and the other shows haven't done Mistborn yet. Love the crazy theories and the impossible spot-on predictions alike.
You know, I had one in mind for you, but now I feel like that one doesn't fit you after that sweet review. So I'm trying to figure out a different one. I'll make you a soother. It's nice and soothing. Soothing review.
Nice. All right. So if you'd like to send us an email, like some of those folks did, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. If you want to get jumped into the misting crew, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or you can leave us one on like Spotify and email us a picture of it at that email address that I just listed, and we can do it that way. Just wherever you can review podcasts, leave us some good review. If you want to get a faring power, however, you can join our Patreon, where mostly it's me reacting to books as I read them for the first time. And I did finally start reading Long Chills and Case Dough, which I think is going to get me it's like a 9-chapter book. And I usually do 3 chapters a time for the Patreon thing. So it'll get a whole 3 episodes out by the time I'm finished with it. But that is coming. I've recorded the first one at least so far. So there will be more of that content. But I also put up a few other little things here and there on the Patreon. So if you're interested, check that out. If not, no worries. Just keep listening. We appreciate everyone out there listening, patrons, people on the Discord, all awesome. We appreciate you. Like I said, we're doing 2 more chapters for next time. That's chapters 5 and 6. And then after that, we do 5 chapters the week after that. So already things are mixing up a little bit.
Things heat up.
Yep. So if you're reading along, 2 chapters for next time. Music by Miracle of Sound and Wasing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Fasher. Crabs ahoy!
You forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain, but you're growing stronger every day. Amnesia.